So hello guys, this time we are taking a look at the Trust Gaming GXT 170 Heron. This mouse is quite a budget option for the game, for the casual gamer, but has one of the most unique features that has been implemented ever on a mouse. This has a proximity sensor that deals with the integrated RGB illumination of the mouse. Now, before we go into that, let's take a look at the internal structure of the mouse, and then we can talk about the optical sensor and the proximity sensor, and if that so-called feature is actually useful when gaming. We move forward, starting with these switches. These are right here. These are Kale blue switches. I'm going to make them. These are Kale switches. Great tactile feedback. Keep in mind that Kale also makes keyboard mechanical switches that are very well received by the audience. These switches are the blue ones, which offer a bit more tactile feedback. They are not mushy at all. You just press on them and you feel the click on it. These are give or take on the same level as the Omrons, also rated as 20 million clicks in terms of reliability. So you shouldn't have any problems using those, and it is surprising to find Kale switches on a mouse that is so cheap. But the surprises do not end here, because this mouse has some components that do not really make sense in terms of pricing. Then we have the ADNS 510 sensor, right, which is right here under the casing. This sensor, contrary to popular belief, is actually made by PixArt, the same company that makes the PWM 3360 sensor, which means that the quality of this sensor is good. The problem that people have with ADNS sensors, and everyone says that they are bad and they are not good for gaming and that you should go for a PWM. Basically, PixArt never intended for the ADNS to be the greatest optical sensor ever, or the laser sensor, mind you, right? That's why you have the PWM series of sensors that are more expensive and they perform better. The ADNS are pretty much the entry-level PixArt sensors. But this sensor is good enough, has some acceleration built into it, but it's not something that you cannot live with. So the ADNS 5110 shouldn't be a problem with you. I liked it when I used this mouse, and I used this mouse for more than a month to do the review and video, so this sensor shouldn't be make it or break it for this mouse. Right, moving along to the scroll wheel switch. It's right here under the scroll wheel, and as you can see by here, by the scrolling on it, it's actually a TCC black switch. Let me just put it like this, right, and like this. It's a black switch by TCC. This is the same deal with most scroll wheel switches. It's good for what it is. Good tactile feedback, a bit loud for my tasting, but again, this is like, it could have easily been Chinese knockoff switch implemented here, but Trust for some reason implemented a TCC switch and Kale switches. And speaking of switches again, the encoder for the scroll wheel, which deals with the rotation of the scroll wheel, right, is made by Kale, and it's a red core encoder. This is not exactly entry level. It's not high end by any means. It's not like Altas or something, but this is a good encoder for the price range. I mean, so far the front end of the mouse is either TCC black or Kale blue and red. Things that you often see in high end. Some of the high end mice also have these switches. So far the Heron is not doing bad at all. And then we have these guys right here. These are the side buttons. These are the side buttons, and these are made by MWK, and they are the 19. The 19, when you see a elevated switch like this, usually for the sides, and you see MWK 19 or MWK 10 or something, the 19 and 10 usually mean the height that these guys are elevated. Again, the tactile feedback is not bad. It's they are a bit mushy, but I cannot fault the switches for that, because these are on bracket that they stand on, so the bracket could be flexing as well. So, but these are the side buttons that are not getting as much use as the front main clicks, so this you can live with MWKs. This is the same deal, probably not still an MWK. No idea if this is a 19 or not. It's not labeled anyway, but this is the DPI button cycler. Nothing unusual. Then we have the whole tech unit right here. This is the main storage and processor of the mouse, and it's the same good old HT66. This guy is the FB550. Now we have 5 LEDs in this mouse, not 5, 6, pardon me, right? And these are all synchronized together through the software, but the mouse can work without the software. Here is the centerpiece of the Heron. This is the proximity sensor. Basically what is happening, hand touches the mouse, the lights turn on, and when you lift your hand from the mouse, the illumination turns off. This is a gimmick. Nothing useful has ever happened for this type of thing. The problem is this: when you have an RGB mouse, one of the features of having an illuminated mouse or keyboard is that you can spot them easily in the dark, right? And this pretty much negates that advantage, because as soon as you lift the hand of the mouse is completely not illuminated, which means that you cannot find it in the dark. So basically this creates an issue that shouldn't have existed in the first place. Now, in terms of proximity, this is a cheap proximity sensor, because mind you, this is an affordable mouse. It's not supposed to have like super high-end proximity sensors in it. This guy is basically reacting to the touch of the shell of the mouse. It's not a true proximity. It's not like a proximity sensor from a smartphone, for example, that detects what is actually in the proximity without being touched. This guy is pretty much a tactile feedback mouse that just switches sensor that just switches on or off the illumination when the case is touched. That's it. Is this useful? I don't see any usefulness for this guy, but it's a gimmick that may or may not well perceived by the user. I mean, if you like this sort of thing, yeah, it's there and it's unique, but overall it's not exactly the best in the world. Then we have right here on the top the cable connect, and this cheap gaming mouse has a removable cable. This means that the Heron is actually very good value for money. Now, overall, is this mouse a good choice for a budget option? Absolutely, it's actually good value for money. And when you have Kale encoders, Kale switches, and TCC switches for the scroll wheel, that says something, right? I mean, this is not something out of the $1 bundle, right? This is something that could have easily been double the money, easily, but it's not. It's affordable. I actually recommend this mouse.